Courtney Teasley, welcome to Freedom Over Fascism.
Thank you for having me. So excited to be here with you, Stephanie.
Courtney Teasley is an attorney, a business coach, an educator, podcaster, author, and more. She conducts Know Your Right trainings, and her mission is to disrupt oppressive systems. I want to start with the current situation, though. How does this change or affect your Know Your Rights education, where you are in Nashville, or has nothing really changed in your part of the world? If you can kind of give us a look into what things are like in the spaces where you operate.
Sounds good. First of all, thank you so much for having me. I am a legal, what I call a legal disruptor. And so, in all facets of the criminal justice, injustice system, I have kind of operated. And so, from that means, like you were saying, from being an author, well, actually, first being a lawyer, right, with my own practice straight out of law school, doing mainly criminal defense, then coaching other lawyers to do the same, be able to open their own practices, and then also educating in the HBCUs in the criminal justice department in mock trial, on all of these different boards, social justice organization, legal redress chair. I did all those things. And then I saw, look, the issue is we're not being no one is taught their rights early on. So there's no legal literacy being taught in schools for, especially for people from what I call the DAMM community. And DAMM, DAMM, stands for disproportionately affected marginalized minority community. And so I created the Easy Way to Learn Your Rights book series and curriculum because it's all I did while I was a lawyer. I did Know Your Rights seminars all across Tennessee, outside of Tennessee. Like I would go to all the different colleges and I would do it. And so it was necessary information at that time. But to answer your question, in this political climate, it is more needed now than ever, right? We know with this regime, how they are deploying the National Guard, deploying ICE, how they are giving more money to the police departments. I recently learned the other day that they have that there are federal lawyers, basically private practice lawyers who take federal cases privately. But they get paid from the federal government by appointment, and they're not being paid. They have not been paid due to all of this, like since June. And they were supposed to get paid in October and then just got notice that they're not being paid until March. And
Wow.
so what does that tell you about the people that they serve? They don't care.
Mhm.
Who cares about your due process? Who cares about your need for a lawyer? Who cares about any of those things? So in this time frame, learning your rights, learning legal literacy is non-negotiable. You have got to know you got to know legal literacy better than these people who went through a couple of weeks of basic training and who
Right.
now get to determine probable cause. They get to determine whether you probably did something with all their motive and biases. And so in my part of the world and in others, I stay all over the US and talking about these. And actually, I was on a podcast with someone in, was it Ireland? And we were talking about the similarities, the different things that are going on. And so it is important for us to just lean in and lock in at this time and make sure
Mhm.
that we are being taught by not just and a lot of times we're only taught by people in the government. You'll only hear from that district attorney, the attorney general's office, or some public defender. No, we don't need to be learning from people who have their hands tied by this government at this moment. We need to be learning by the disruptors who are outside of it, who have figured out strategic ways to attack.
So let's talk about that, because one of the things I was thinking is, like, this regime doesn't respect people's rights. It basically says you have no First Amendment rights, you have no right to an attorney, you have no right to in we they don't even require a judicial warrant to arrest you.
Mhm.
So how does that work, and how do you attack that problem? Is there room for making a difference given, the fact that rights don't seem to exist and the regime just basically said, "We wanna be absolute dictators"?
Absolutely. Listen, at the end of the day, they're the federal government. That's the federal at this moment. We know that that is their thought process. We know that's how they're operating. However, locally, we are not changing up how we fight back. Right at this, we and there are people filing lawsuits that are challenging these things every single day, and that's at a federal level. They're attacking that, but when we're thinking about the mass majority of the people who are being affected, this is at the local level, and so our rights still exist here. Our rights are existing because I'm going to file motions if my client's rights are violated. We are going to be going to the full length of this legal system to actually ensure we're protecting our rights. And so that means just standing on them like there's no change. I don't care what the person in the White House is claiming or saying. We're day to day. I'm here in front of this judge. Judge, we elected you, right? Judge, the law says A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? And so many of these judges, many of the people locally are still doing the things that they know that they are supposed to be doing because that guy won't be in office forever. And so you do have to get elected again. You do want to still be, you want to have a job. So a lot of what we're seeing and what I've been pushing at this time frame is accountability. So we need the community to be court watching and holding these government actors accountable at this time. So when we see that they are acting contrary to the community, when we see that they are moving in a light that, and we're in Nashville, so we're all this only little blue dot here in a big red Tennessee. And so it's even more important here when we start to see these, the ones who propose to be liberals or whatnot, or they got elected by saying, "Oh, I'm progressive," or "I'm this, and that," and we start to watch how actually the things that you're doing are not progressive at all, right? They're harmful, and we call them out in real time. And so I think that helps drive accountability. And it also gives the community a way to be a part of this process, right? To actually utilize their civic duties.
So how is that going? How does that work in practice? Um, you like from the beginning of I don't know, start wherever you want with whatever you're publishing or from the other side, from the community side. Can you just tell me how that's going in practice? Or how does it yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So in practice, when I speak about that, like I created a training called the DAMM Advocate Training. And again, DAMM standing for Disproportionately Affected Marginalized Minority Training, Advocacy Training. And what I did is I went around and I found organizations that had criminal justice reform in their missions, right? And I then, if I'm not already, it's here in Nashville, if I'm not already connected to them, like I reach out to them and we have a conversation around what it looks like to be more proactive in this space because the majority of people being paid tons of money to be in this space are reactive, and reactive means doing anything after someone has already been found guilty or pled guilty, right? Proactive is coming in the beginning, right? Prior to them being arrested, or even once they're arrested in that in between time frame before they are forced to become one of the 97% that take police, right? Just because
Mhm.
of the system being just burdensome. And so it looks like training the community on moving the curtain and showing them the behind the scenes. So as a lawyer, I saw a lot of different things that a lot of people just don't know to look for. Right? They don't know what it means. Like if a district of a lawyer comes in and they waive your preliminary hearing. They don't know what it means. Like say, for we use Khalid Browder as a case study, right? When that Khalid Browder, that's the young man, and it was Netflix. They did a special on him, the Khalid Browder story. He was in Rikers Island for 3 years with no trial, and he ended up killing himself after he got out. And so we utilize that as a case study so that way we can see how could we have intervened had someone gave a damn, quite frankly, right? Had you actually cared, had his lawyer been fighting like his lawyer should have been, had the community been concerned, had they been coming to the court dates and seeing like, what are you looking for? You're seeing this case has got continued 30 times. And all the state is talking about they're out of town. They can't get a witness. They can't do any of these things. And it's like, what? I pay you to be here. You have lost your mind. This person has the right to due process. They have the right to a speedy trial. You will not keep them in here with us being quiet about it. You will
Mhm.
not. We're going to go let everybody know. We're going to go, whatever we need to do. We need to find another lawyer. We need to file motions. So the damn advocacy training gives you the behind the scenes. So not only teaching you your rights, but we're teaching you strategic and proactive ways to advocate on behalf of the least of us, the people
Mhm.
who are fighting these situations, right? So you learn how to actually do more than what kind of we normally or we were taught to do, which is open a rehab, open a, do maybe put them on an ankle monitor, have them do something meaningless that's not actually going to assist anyone, is not going to help the recidivism rates, it's not doing anything. So we give them tangible ways that they can actually be a part of this, and then also at the end we teach them how to speak in front of a court, right? Because if you're an organization and you're providing opportunities for the DAMM community, DAMM community, then you need to know how to address the court. You need to know what that even means. You need to know what a case looks like. You need to know what a theme is. You need to know what are the laws that the judge is looking for. What is he looking at when he's determining whether a witness is credible, right? And
Mhm.
so these types of things we dive deep into in our advocacy training because I just think the community doesn't know. I'm in court all the time. The police are in court all the time. The judge is in court all the time. The DA is in court all the time. You're not in court all the time. So you are the one who needs to be prepared. And that's what we do.
Yeah, I mean, some of us go to jury duty and get called, and so we've seen what goes on, um, but most of us haven't. So, um, do you see what you're teaching being implemented in a way that's useful?
Actually have. I had an organization who I have done a lot of work with. In a National Action Network Nashville. So National Action Network is I think Reverend Al Sharpton's organization is kin to it's like NAACP. They do social justice stuff. And so they were one of the organizations that took my damn advocate training. And afterwards they had a couple of cases. And the people that I only trained two people from the organization, right? So they came in and I trained them under a grant. These people, there are ones who are able to afford it, and the ones that can't. Like we try to find grants for them that will cover their costs. But I trained them, and they had a case. And when they went in, they had to have They created a plan, a strategic plan for this person to be released back into the community. They created things that would address the root causes of why someone gets in trouble in the first place. But more importantly, they got on the stand and they testified. And when I tell you, came back running, screaming like, "Oh my gosh, it worked. It worked. I didn't know. I wasn't scared. I got on the stand. I was looking at the judge. I made eye contact. I told him what this is. I let it in." So they were so excited that they were able to articulate themselves in a way that was received by the court. And so oftentimes you don't see that in communities of color. And we can come here, Trayvon Martin case, right? When we had the young lady, Rachel Gentile, I believe I think her first name was Rachel, but the last name was Gentile, and she testified. But because she is from the DAMM community and she speaks African American English, which is a nationally recognized language, however, it is still discredited and thought of as being ghetto. You don't know what you're talking about, right? Stupid. And so when she testified, she was discounted, right? It was kind of, we don't know what you're talking about or whatever. And that happens a lot in the court system. And so my advocacy training, because I'm well versed in African American English and the King's English, right? That's what made me a really good lawyer and a good advocate because I'm able to translate and train others to be able to do the same when they are going into the court system and having to present a case, right? And so, yeah, it was super useful. We got testimonials from them. It was so exciting to just see it happen in real life. And then, like, to know I trained them, to know they know this stuff, but then to see them actually go and do it in the community, most rewarding thing ever.
Wow, and that is so we've got several different pieces here. We've got you train them to what to do in a courtroom. You train them in a strategic plan, which I wanna follow up on, and you train them to code switch,
No, I
which
don't call it code switching.
I I I
Yeah,
know,
yeah, but I
but
see what you're saying.
we all code switch,
Yes.
like, like my teenager who will, throw the F bomb around at home because 'cause I'm okay with it, won't do that at school, and that I mean, that's code
Absolutely.
switching too.
Absolutely.
So, But okay, we won't call it code switching. So
And what you're saying though, like I don't disagree. I understand what you're saying. I moved away from that term, but I
huh?
definitely do understand the. It is what you're saying. The basis of what you're saying is right. It's exactly right. Is knowing how to move from how to be able to present an argument in a way that is going to be well received by this person. And so at the end of the day, you have to have intel on who this person is, what is important to them, how do they speak? How are they most likely to relate to your argument? How can you be most persuasive with them? Right. So, yes, I definitely understand. I try and move away from that term because it is such a trigger term. But, what you're saying is essentially correct.
So tell me more about why it's such a trigger term. I mean, I tend to think about it in very large contexts, like, not racialized, but it can become racialized. So tell me more about why you feel or why you believe it's a trigger term.
Yeah, so I say that because think about it like this. When I was just talking to you about the young lady who is from a marginalized community, and that is the language that her community speaks. I mean, that's anyone from any community, and they're growing up and they have their own dialect, their own language, which is why it became a nationally recognized language. And so, however, when you live here in America, and especially in these times, right? Anything, your blackness, your culture is demonized. It's made to be wrong. I mean, we were just looking I just saw some kinda social media message about, Jasmine Crockett, and they were severely attacking her. "Oh, she's ghetto. She's this. She's stupid. She's blah," so when you are living in a culture where the majority is making you feel like you're stupid for your natural dialect, for how you've grown up, for the things that you've done, and nobody they don't do it to anybody. You're not doing it to people who are, grew up in Koreatown or Chinatown here in America. They're doing that. They have their same dialects as well. We have had to find ourselves in this, right? We have had to find who we are. And so, in attempting in finding who we are as marginalized people in America, we have had to come to terms and say, hey, I don't care what you think is bad. This is my culture and it's not bad. Right? It's not a
Mhm,
stupid thing. We are not, you're not dumb because you speak this way. So we have had to go reclaim that.
mhm,
And it's hard. And so once you go reclaim that, when you hear somebody say, oh, well, code switch and just talk back in their language, it's like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to code switch. I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to do that. I want to be me and I want to be accepted for being me. Now, that is what people want. The courts, the criminal injustice system demands otherwise. It's not fair. It's not right. So that's why you had the hesitancy with me to agree to the code switch. But it is true in the criminal injustice system, they will penalize you for being you. They will penalize you for being you. And I was talking about the lawyer who I was speaking with, who was talking about they had not been paid this entire time in federal court. Well, she needs to go see one of her clients, and she has not been able to see her client for months because a they speak Spanish, and a translator is not going to be paid to go with her to go talk to them.
mm,
So this is the reality of the system. We know that we're penalized if we are different, if we are other. And so, because of that, your lawyer usually prepares you for that. A good lawyer
mhm,
will, right? And get you prepared if
mhm,
you have to testify. And that's what I do. I've done many witness preparation for jury. I've done a lot of different things. And sometimes what we have to do to make sure we are persuasive in our argument and our argument is being heard and not discounted, we do have to code switch to the language that the court wants to hear. And it's not fair, but it is what has to be done.
right. So how does that go? I know we're sort of getting away from the original question, but I'm finding this really interesting because while the DAMM community, um, it might be more extreme. Anybody going into a courtroom needs to be trained, unless they are a lawyer, on how to speak to a judge and a jury and da da da. Da. So I am really curious about how is it to prepare them, um, and how do you do it, and how does it work in practice?
First of all, that's a great question. Thank you for that. And how do I prepare them? That's that mock trial coach that comes out, right? It's the natural educator. I have always been in theater and I've written many plays, a lot of different Black history plays, a lot of different civil rights, things of that nature. And so I took acting classes, had to perform in front of juries. And so it's easy for me to prepare someone else to get in front of what I'm so familiar with, right? And it's just because I've always had to train people to do it. And I think mock trial was probably the place where I had to consistently take people who are young, oh my gosh, and hard to focus to learn something that we've went to school multiple years and then come out and lawyers are still struggling to do, which is to stand in front of a court and present a case, right? And so what I do to prepare them is I teach them the rules of the game, right? It's the easiest thing to do. And people love, and I'm a gamer, I love games. And so I just pull it back and I do it in game form. Like, listen, here are the rules, right? Here's how we win. And so when you can break it down into a way that they are able to understand, right? That I know this isn't fair. I know this is contrary to everything that you feel at this moment. I know, I get it. Let's have that conversation about how unfair this system is. Let's have that conversation first, and then let's talk about it's unavoidable. We're here now, right? And because it's unavoidable, what are we going to do to win? Since we're here and we can't change the circumstances. And so then after that, it's easier. So now we're looking at the case, right? Now we're breaking down the case. We're breaking down motive and bias. We're using my framework, how I've done multiple cases, how I prepare. I'm teaching them the insight. I'm teaching them what the district attorney is looking for. I'm teaching them what the judge is looking for. I'm preparing them. I'm going to prepare them to testify, but then I'm going to cross examine them with all fierce vigor, right? And so that they are prepared when they get into that courtroom. And I agree. When I say the DAMM community, is disproportionately affected marginalized minorities. However, like you said, like there are many people who come into the criminal justice system and they have just not had that kind of interaction before. They don't know how to present a case. They don't know how to do any of these things. I focus on marginalized minorities because Black Americans are 6 times more incarcerated in the criminal justice system. And so those are the majority of the people you're going to come across are minorities. And if you do come across people who are from the majority, who are in there, it just depends. If they're well off, right? They usually get better deals. They usually can afford better lawyers. They can hire people who can come do focus groups. They can do all types of things to prepare them for the situation that they've never been in. So I focus in on a marginalized minority because they are the ones who are most incarcerated.
So, let's talk about the mass incarceration piece of this. It's obvious to anybody who's paying attention that, um, marginalized minorities are disproportionately incarcerated, and that ends up being sort of an extension of slavery. Can you talk about your work, to prevent more incarceration?
So, same things that we've been talking about already, right? My work to end mass incarceration is proactive. And so, in essence, I coach lawyers and I train advocates, okay? Because every lawyer is not an advocate and every advocate is not a lawyer for sure. So, first and foremost, let's start with the coaching lawyers. Like I was telling you kind of earlier, my trajectory into this system working as a lawyer. I opened my own law practice straight out of law school and learned later that only 1% of lawyers do that. And it's so crazy because it's actually a lucrative way to start practicing and also it increases your impact because you don't have your hands tied. So all those things I told you I was able to do, the professor, the mock trial, seating a criminal court judge in a city it had never been done in, I could only do that because I own my own law practice. And so I teach other lawyers to have more freedom, profit, and impact so that way they can fight without their hands tied. That's the first thing. So I teach them I'm a certified business coach as well. And so I don't just teach them the practice of law, I also teach them the business of law, which is something that law school just doesn't teach us. Now, that is how I create sustainability within the lawyers because a lot of times the best lawyers, the ones who are the fighters, they burn out. They don't know business. They don't want to know business. They don't have time for that. All I want to do is practice law. And so I make that possible for them. So that way they can do what they're best at while also growing whatever their legacy, right? Whatever they want to grow in their business. And on the other side is the training advocates, right? And so that's my legal literacy. That is the easy way to learn your rights book series. That is proactively educating the DAMM community. It's with schools with my legal literacy curriculums where I actually work with the school to however they want to provide it. If they want to provide it in a shorter time frame, like a club, a legal literacy club, then we do that. Or if they want to add it into their full year curriculum, we do that as well with them. And also the DAMM advocacy training. So that's the legal literacy and the advocacy trainings, which include the easy way to learn your rights trainings. So it includes all the legal literacy knowledge, but you get additional knowledge on what I was telling you, the strategic inner workings of how to fight these types of cases strategically with the community, right? Alongside them. And so that is how I decided I wanted to fight back against mass incarceration because I looked and I really researched the organizations, and I was like, all of these organizations, I see the reason why y'all have so much money. Oh, wow. You're reactive. You're only going to help someone after they've become a felon. So it's like, oh, you're a felon. Now I help you. Well, I think the idea should be to flip that.
Mhm.
Let's help them prior to that. Let's fill in the gaps in school. Yeah, that's cool. Let's start there. But let's figure out ways to fill in the gaps when they're fighting cases. Okay, let's do that. We got lawyers and advocates there. And then we have that just legal literacy training for yourself, how to aid in your own defense. This is just literally proactive education. It's just proactive education. Giving it to you prior to you needing it is why it's effective.
So, um, how do you know it's effective? What is your, how do you evaluate that?
Ooh, I love it. So I evaluated based on so my lawyers, first on my lawyers, and when I'm able to get the testimonials from my lawyers who are new coming out, the ones who dare to open up their practice straight out of law school, the ones who are nervous about taking their first trial. Many people, many lawyers say, I don't want to do criminal defense because I don't want to mess up anybody's life. It's like there are so many lawyers that come out and literally, and usually from the majority, right? Only marginalized lawyers make up a small fraction of lawyers in general, but Black American lawyers are stand at the very bottom. Where it has not, it's 5%, has not grown any more than that. But these lawyers come out and I'll show them, okay, this is how you practice law. But then, or they'll hire me to do a trial prep with them when they're about to have their first trial. And at the end of that, when we're able to look back and see, oh, wow, you forced the state to give you evidence they were hiding. Exculpatory evidence your client was due, but as a new lawyer, you don't know what you don't know, and seasoned district attorneys take advantage of you. Right? And so because of that, that's how I know it works with my lawyers because they get real results for their clients. They are actually the ones who are booked and busy, the ones who are making great money because they are in high demand due to the quality of their services, right? The quality of their services. Nobody wants your free option. They just don't. People from the damn community don't want what you're forcing down their throats and say it's free. You need to be happy it's free. Well, I don't want that because oftentimes in the community, the free option is the most trash option, the option that's not going to fight for me. The option is just going to push me to take a plea. That's oftentimes the thought process in the damn community. So if I can equip lawyers to provide quality service at reasonable rates, right? You charge your value the majority of the time, then you have the ability to create sliding scales, fee discounts for others. And the great majority of people are not making under the poverty line. They're making right above it. So they need a private lawyer, right? And so that's how I empower my lawyers. And then on the other side, how I know it works is because of the actual, I've done cases, right? I've done a case called Disrupt Manchester, hashtag Disrupt Manchester, where we had to go into a smaller county outside of Nashville where they had taken 5 children and forced them into foster care. and all over a little bit of marijuana from a family that was coming from Georgia, where medical marijuana was legal, and going to Chicago, where recreation marijuana was legal, and came through here with something that could have been hemp, which is legal here. And they took their children. And so at that time frame, I utilized a framework where I did criminal defense organizing. Like I organized the community around them. I educated them on the legal literacy education they needed. The civic education they needed. I gave them the tools that they would need. I quarterbacked the case and started hiring the people that we would need in this case proactively and doing these different things. And so we were able to get those kids out of custody in 56 days versus the year it usually takes, but it was a community effort. So our trainings, right, are were created in that. And our legal literacy curriculum, our legal literacy books, our easy way to learn your right books, we just use that our community, but how they're letting us know, like, hey, I didn't know this. Oh, when I went to court, I didn't know I had an encounter with the police. I didn't even know I could. I gave him consent. I didn't know I could withdraw it. I read your book and saw that. Oh wow, right? And then finally, TikTok. We did and our TikTok is MFNEMEFFEN. We did a TikTok series and it was called CJ Lit 101, Criminal Justice Literacy 101. And I have thousands upon thousands of comments in our Google Classroom. I did a whole semester class on there and of people engaging and talking about, oh, I didn't know this information. What? This is crazy. Our book started selling out. It was just like people want to be informed. They wanted to be educated, but sometimes they don't have the money to do so, right? So when we removed that barrier and just brought that class straight to them, no, you don't have to go to school. You don't have to go to TSU. You don't have to go to any kind of school to get this. Here's that knowledge. They responded overly and abundantly. So I think it's been pretty successful. It was exciting.
So can you slowly,
Ah,
so people can either write it down or remember it, talk about your TikTok,
oh, yes.
handle and where they can find you?
Yes, I would say y'all get over there now before it leaves. It's TikTok at MFN, EMEFFEN, TikTok at MFN. And you want to go there, and I have a playlist, CJ Lit 101. So you can just hit on that, and then you'll see all of the courses, all of the ones that I've discussed. We went, oh my God, we talked about everything. It's just 12 full weeks of straight bringing you lessons. I believe they're all less than 10 minutes. Some of them 3, 4 minutes. I mean, it's super easy to get through, but at the end, there's a prompt. And for you to get credit, you have to leave a comment responding to the prompt. Or you can go to the Google Classroom, which I just had someone, it was a whole wave from February to April, but I still had people joining it. And I had someone just go in there and respond to one of the prompts the other day. And so you just, it is for your own knowledge. It is for you. There's no legal advice. I never give legal advice. I can't, right? It's all legal education. I'm one of those lawyers who always says, you need a lawyer. You definitely need a lawyer, right? I'm not never telling you don't need a lawyer, but what you do need to know is how to aid in your defense. You cannot solely rely on the lawyer. Due to the fact of this system being as screwed up as it is, you have to know how to fight your case as well. And so TikTok is going to be a good place for you all to get started and to basically see me in action, see me teaching. And then if you want to engage in our book series, grab it from there, or you can grab it from our site, which is the same, mfn.com, EMEFFEN.com.
Can you tell me what that stands for or means?
Love it. I love it, Stephanie. You're the best. We have a framework. We are the business protest of mass incarceration. So MFN is a euphemism for a passionately cultured word, right? That means in African American English, pay attention to what's being described. Okay? And I can think of nothing more important to pay attention to than the fact that Black Americans were 6 times more incarcerated in this criminal justice system over the 60% white majority, yet we only make up 14% of the entire US. And so MFN, our framework is MFN. And so again, I've told you it's a euphemism for a passionately cultured word. And I think you all know that passionately word, right? But
Mhm.
M, F, and N is the framework. M stands for mindset, F stands for finesse, and N stands for non-negotiable boundaries. So we're in your face with us being the business protest, but and you listen to all of our acronyms, DAMM, DAMM, right? They all have
Mhm.
meaning, but they are created to draw your attention to a huge systemic issue.
I think that's so interesting because in this country, in this system, we have these massive systemic problems that we want individuals to solve for themselves. So, can you talk a little bit about that and what your what your response to that is and how you feel like what you are doing is addressing that?
So in this country, we do have these massive systemic issues. And when you speak about that, the first thing that came to my mind was and when you said they want us to solve ourselves, right? Like to solve ourselves out of poverty.
Right.
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 The fact that
Or solve ourselves out of racism or solve ourselves out of,
yeah.
all the things. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just so first of all, I think that a portion of this I think it's BS, right? We didn't create ourselves. We didn't get here by ourselves. And I think that the issue that you have that a lot of people don't like to realize is that it takes a village thought process is real. Everyone who came and grew up in marginalized communities did not fare the same way.
Mhm.
Okay? Just like everyone growing up in you have two siblings growing up in the same household and everybody's not going to grow up that same exact way, right? So you're going to have
Exactly.
people who are good at getting using negative reinforcement to catapult them to a different place to get them you seeing all these different issues and going on. It's like, you know what, I need to lock in, I got to get out of here. But then you also have people that can't. You have people that don't have access to certain resources. Maybe they never learned positive intelligence, emotional intelligence. Maybe they never learned, they never were when they were in school, they were not um given the same resources as others. Just wasn't any equity there, right?
Mhm.
And so I think asking people to solve their own selves out of a situation that they didn't create for themselves is crazy, right? And it's hard when you never have been given the resources and you don't know readily where to go get them. And then you're pushed to always go to the state. The district attorney's
Which
office is hosting an expungement clinic. The public defense, these are only resources we're going to give you, these resources. And so I, as someone who is from a marginalized community, recognize my own privilege. I recognize my own privilege. I was able to pull myself. I came out. I knew that I was I use negative encounters to catapult me further into other situations, right? That's how I was able to utilize my brain. I recognized so many others could not, and they were consumed. And
Mhm.
so I went to law school. I recognized so many others didn't have the opportunity or cannot for whatever reason. So it's upon me, my duty was, you know what? The same way I deal with my criminal defense law practice, I charge my value because I provide good service. I'm always the quality option. I tell my lawyers, we are only the quality option. We don't give substandard services here. So I take that same thought process and said, okay, so because a whole lot of other people could not go to law school, I'm going to create for them. I'm going to do my part, which is create a business around this and provide it at a reasonable price for my community. That is how I fight back. Right. And so
Mhm.
that's how I fight back against systemic issues. But I also recognize everyone doesn't have that ability. There are some people who are solely maybe in their mind frame, they don't have a entrepreneurial spirit. So maybe they would never ever go open a business or do anything of this nature, but that's okay. Maybe you're working a 9 to 5, but we can find ways that you can use your own experience and expertise to be able to protect the least of us, to help the ones that didn't fare so well, to help the ones that weren't able to bring themselves out of a situation that they never created for themselves. And so that is my response. Like I don't know how to I don't know how someone can solve their way out of poverty, right? If that's all
Mhm.
they've ever known and that's all and they weren't given the resources and education, maybe they just weren't good at taking tests or whatever reason. I don't know how to help that. I also don't know how to help you solve your way out of racism.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
we can't do that. Oh, the ones that hate, right? The ones that hate other races, that's incumbent upon yourself.
Well, it's also incumbent upon the system, which is where I, want to, wrap up. one of the things that I want to do with this podcast is to look at the ways we can create. No, rephrase that. We're going to need to build a new society after this one breaks entirely. And it could take generations, could take decades, it could take however long it takes. One of the things we're going to need is what I call radical creativity
Mm,
in order to build the society we want to
mm.
live in. So, if there was one place that you would start in building a new system after the destruction of even the bad system, I mean, we don't want to go back to the bad system, what would that be?
I think one place that I think the easiest place, honestly, to start is clearly in the education, right? The education, the elementary education, when these children are young, when they are, teaching them um, not just legal literacy, financial literacy, right? Teaching them civics, teaching them how to be a part of a full part, not one third, not whatever, not in just voting, not, but to actually take part in this system in a way that they are empowered, right? And so I think that the radical creativity is going to come from for a person like myself. I would start in the schools. I would start with, in the schools, and I would create curriculum around nothing but um, empowerment, legal literacy, advocacy, and let that be the foundation. Because I think that once we all have that knowledge and once we know how to use it, like I'm so non negotiable about my rights that it doesn't have to just be an officer, it can be anyone asking me anything. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I don't have to really don't have to tell you that, do I? Right? I don't have to ask you that. I know what my rights say and I know. So I protect them with everything within me, and so I think that'd be a great place to start.
Is really thoughtful, and I really, really appreciate this conversation. I don't wanna keep you too long. Um, why don't you take a moment and again, tell people where to find you? I'll put it in the show notes.
Awesome.
But first, I wanna thank you for an incredible conversation and all of the work that you do. I hope that people listen and get in touch with you and learn how to do what you do as well, so it can be scaled. So, yeah, if you can tell people again, whatever plug you wanna actually, not just where to find you, but whatever plug you want, now's your moment.
Now's my time. Thank you so much, Stephanie. First of all, thank you so much for having me on this wonderful show. I love the work you're doing, and I enjoyed this conversation so much. You all can find me. You see my name here is Courtney Teasley at Black Law Girl on YouTube. Go to YouTube and subscribe. You'll see me over there ranting. It's called the Black Law Girl Rant. We talk money, politics, and legal literacy stuff, right? So find me there and then connect with me on LinkedIn, right? You thinking about bringing legal literacy to your school, or even if you just want a couple of our book bundles, we have 2 books, The Easy Way to Learn Your Rights, both books. The second one just came out on the Fifth Amendment. It is packed, and we have the first one on the Fourth Amendment, but it is chocked full of rights. The Fifth Amendment is 5 main rights, and so grab a copy of our book bundle. You can hit me up if you want me to come do a legal workshop with you. If you buy so many book bundles, I'll do one for free. So we just whatever it is, whatever you're creating, whatever you're trying to do, if this is important to you, please reach out to me. Find me. It's here, mfn.com, YouTube, LinkedIn. Reach out to me and I will make it happen because this is my mission. Is to make sure that our communities know this information in a way that resonates with them. As a
Mhm.
lawyer, I was huge about that. I can speak, all this legalese all day long, but if my life is on the line, if I could potentially lose my freedom, I don't need you to speak above my head. I need you to speak to me, right? In my language. And that's what I do in my legal literacy. And so go find me. I love to connect.
Thanks so much, and, I'd love to have you back anytime.
I love to come back. Thank you so much, Stephanie.